Micheál Briody, you're the chairman of the CPA, and obviously the GAA have decided to press ahead with discussing a Tier 2 proposal on October the 19th. Now, you as part of the CPA were participating in a fixture review task force that was supposed to report back with recommendations in November. What happened?
Okay, well, that's all still online. I suppose if you take it back one step, Shane, when we were set up 2.5 years ago, we've been, banging the drum to get a task force, the Fixtures Taskforce set up. That has happened. John Horn set that up in early in the year, and it started its work in June. And it's due to sort of produce its findings in November, I think, and present to Congress in 2020 for change in 2021. And that was the agreed sort of terms of reference from the outset. Yeah, it's very disappointing then that in parallel to that, with no sort of real urgent necessity, that there is a Tier 2 look to be put in at Special Congress in Cork next month. Look, we feel that the work that the task force is doing, which has been considerable, and I have been privy to sort of seeing a lot of those kind of plans. I think I think there's a lot of good work there. The solutions are there, and certainly, as I would have seen, that most of those plans, and certainly the best of the plans, would certainly have a Tier 2 in it, and we would be in favour of a Tier 2, but would have a better format of a Tier 2 than the one that will go ahead in Cork next month.
Do you feel like that the fixture review was a bit of a smoke screen or distraction while the GAA got on with the real business of revamping?
Look, I mean, we don't think so. We do think that they've put a lot of work into the task force, and that is continuing afoot. Look, I'm struggling with the logic on why they're putting through changes when you have a sort of a very competent committee set up with all the different stakeholders doing that work, and then that suddenly you're looking to get it urgently through at a special Congress. And it doesn't make sense. None of us in the CPA on our executive, or most people I've spoken to, can actually see the logic of it, but maybe the GAA knows something that we don't.
Do you think that there's any element of an outgoing GAA president, in this case John Horn, looking to sort of cement a legacy? Pádraig Duffy, of course, helped bring through the Super 8s, and at the moment we're talking about all the candidates to take over as GAA president. Do you feel like there's an element of rushing through something just to have a legacy?
Maybe so, but I think John Horn is in the fortunate position of his legacy he can have a significantly strong legacy if he is the one that has set up the task force. But if they deliver change in Congress next year, he will be the guy who will have spearheaded that, and that is real change. Like the Tier 2 proposals that are being put through, look, if we're looking at those as legacy issues, they will be similar to the Super 8s. The Super 8s, I don't think, will be around for that longer. There's not a lot of favour in them. But that was said from the outset, that it's a league at the wrong end of a competition at the end as opposed to the start. But equally to the Tier 2, there's better Tier 2, and in any of the proposals that will come through from the task force, I can't see it being incorporated.
And what form has the fixture review task force taken so far? Who's at these meetings? For people who don't know, what different stakeholders are represented?
Well, our National Secretary, Michael Higgins, represents the CPA on it. The GPA are represented at it. There's one provincial secretary, and the third level colleges are represented at it. There's a county board represented at it, and then there's a couple of people from fixtures analysts and other county there's another secretary of a county board. It's in the public domain, all the names. I don't want to list out all the names in case if I miss one. John Horn sits on it too, Tom Ryan, Fergal McGill. So all the people with the knowledge on fixtures and GAA are certainly around the table and are certainly there being represented. Now, my own, I presented a lot of the stakeholders presented to the task force. I presented on behalf of the CPA at one stage, and I proxied for Michael at a meeting when he was away on holidays. But other than that, I haven't been privy to the particular goings on.
Do you think the vast majority of the people who were contributing time and effort into this were then banging their heads when it was announced about this Tier 2?
Well, I haven't had any conversations with those, but I mean with the members. But I think like anyone else that I've talked to, I'm not sure they understand the logic behind it. But then again, a lot of the people there that I've mentioned would be kind of involved with putting that together for Special Congress, so they're obviously aware of it.
Do you think that the GPA and the CPA are fairly well aligned in terms of coming up with a fixture schedule that gives club players a chance as well as having a championship structure that people actually enjoy? Because at the moment, like you've mentioned with the Super 8s, that's definitely not working.
Yeah, I mean, we've had discussions with the management of the GPA as well, offline, and by and large, like we would have sort of broad agreement on a few key principles, like things like rest period, like that there should be a down month for all players, right? And I don't think anyone's in disagreement with that. I mean, every sort of different permutation of a fixtures schedule is debatable, and there's pros and cons. By and large, I would see us particularly, aligned on that we want fairness and we want certainty, right? And both groups would definitely be looking for those two particular principles or traits in a fixture schedule.
All along, you've kind of known that the GAA were thinking of trying to push through their Tier 2, even while you were doing the fixture review, isn't that true?
From the outset on the Tier 2?
Well, that you knew as the Fixture Review Taskforce was going to be getting together to try and come up with ideas, that the GAA had intended on pushing through this Tier 2 proposal.
Yeah, that was muted to us by John Horn from the outset. We did ask him to say, well, look, would you not wait? It doesn't make sense, but it has obviously taken legs behind the scenes.
And when you said, would you not wait, what was the sort of response you got?
Polite no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so therefore, did you ever kind of think as you were meeting up with this Fixture Review Task Force that, well, what's the real point of this?
Well, we looked at it and being honest with you, we thought when everybody got involved in the task force, and as they have done, that they would see, look, there is a better option out here, and those better options, I've seen them, they are there. So that maybe then the Tier 2 would say, well, look, this is not going to wash, it's not the right time for it. And I think everyone that's writing about it at the moment is kind of saying, why, is it there? Is it kind of undermining what's going on in the task force? And is it going to be a big difference next year? The Tier 2 that they're proposing, like, it's, to me, like, it's a poorer version of the Tommy Murphy Cup that was a disaster some years ago.
And is it true then that Paul Flynn was saying last week that this could go through at Special Congress, this Tier 2 would be accepted, but then at Congress again at the start of next year, that if ye brought something through and then it was proposed by a county board, we'll say, and the motion was carried, it would actually supersede the Tier 2 that the GAA? Yeah,
we've got a commitment from Croke Park early on when they did sort of mute the fact that a Tier 2 would be coming in, that we would say, well, look, any work that the task force would bring and the route that it would bring that to Congress, it would overwrite that. So unlike the Super 8s, when it was brought in a 3-year trial, and then nothing could be touched within 3 years. We've got the commitment from John Horn that this can be overwritten if there is a better proposal.
And nobody wants to strike. As a club player, you're like, your years are precious, you want to be playing as many games as possible. I don't think anyone particularly wants to strike, and you have committed from the start that that's not really the road you want to go down. True. But if you did want to sort of turn up the heat on the GAA a little bit to try and make more of an effort to pull with you, what can you actually do? Or is there a sense that you might be a little bit toothless as an association?
Well, no, we agree with you there, Shane. Like, I mean, we said it from the outset that striking is not, whilst it's somewhat difficult to sort of coordinate, we will admit, at club level, more importantly, it's not what we want our club players. We want them playing football, not playing less football. Right?
And hurling.
And hurling, sorry. But I suppose, what else can we do? Well, look, I mean, there's a lot of money goes around in the GAA, and that money, the main sponsors of the GAA, that comes from their support. Their customers are the club players, the club members on every village and community around Ireland. There's ways we can look at that and sort of say, well, look, we haven't teased it out in full, but certainly, like, if we weren't if we weren't happy with that the task force wasn't being given a fair hearing and that it wasn't, genuinely going to bring proposals to Congress to be properly debated, there's potential routes there.
Is that in terms of trying to get members to boycott sponsors?
I say we haven't discussed it in detail at executive level, but maybe potentially or something like that. We just have to tease that out in the time. I'd hope it would never come to that. I mean, there's no winners there. But look, I mean, it's such a serious situation that everything has to be kind of considered if that happened. But I do really, really believe that the task force has some potentially brilliant options there that they can put in front of club members, on front of clubs. Clubs can sort of then go on the side on option A, B, C, and then they can mandate their county boards accordingly to vote at Congress, and that's who has to decide. The GAA, we've all everyone you've heard is sort of a we all belong. It's all the club is the sort of the integral unit of the GAA, the most important unit of the association.
The lifeblood.
Yeah, and I mean, leave it up to the clubs of Ireland to decide what they want and what options they want on a fixture schedule. But it's the task force's responsibility to put viable and manageable sort of fixture schedules in front of them.
And there's supposed to be a debate on Sunday on RTE Sunday Sport. The CPA were asked to participate, the GPA and the GAA. So what's happening with that?
Well, we were asked by RTE to attend, and we certainly will attend and debate it, and I believe the GPA will as well. But I don't think there's anybody being put forward from the GAA, which is disappointing because we would like to see what the bona fides are behind this Tier 2. But as I understand, and it's RTE that are organising it, I don't think they're going to be in attendance.
And from your point of view, is that frustrating that you don't have this kind of like open air discussion where everybody can see exactly what's happening?
Yeah, certainly is disappointing. I mean, we're not for saying that everything that we're saying is right or fits everybody's requirements and needs. So, I mean, as I say, if there's something that they know that we don't know that is for the betterment of the GAA, well, let's put it out there, but don't hide.
It feels like from that point of view that this, like, it's hard to see how this can end positively. That we can all come together, kumbaya, and come up with the right solution.
Oh, I think we can.
Yeah?
I think we can. Like, I mean, I think.
What tells you that? Because it seems at the moment that you've just been kind of sidelined.
Oh, well, I don't know. The CPA are only one member of the task force. Like, I mean, there's a lot of other people there. I think there's 14 altogether on the task force. We're one of 14. So, I mean, this is not about sidelining the CPA. I mean, there's a lot of real, genuine, capable, very, very good guys on that task force. So, and John Horn has handpicked them all. So, I mean, he's not going to do them the umbrage of sort of sidelining them. I don't think. Like, I mean, I think there is genuine will to sort of put this on front of Congress. But again, too, it's just a little bit surprising that the Tier 2, a poor version of the Tier 2 has been put forward. But
and to finish off on a broad point, then, is there any sort of message you'd like to get across about this?
About the Tier 2?
About the Tier 2, about the lay of the land at the moment.
Yeah, well, look, we've always asked our members to be kind of to be patient with us, and we sent out a message to them there earlier in the week, just saying, look, that we have devoted the whole summer to working on the plans with the task force, and that's where we've sort of put our resources to. Look, I think, I think when it comes at the end of this year, whether we have something, clubs and players are all going to have to read these options and understand them, how they impact on their own personal lives. And they're going to have to put a little bit of time, and each club is going to have to put a little bit of time to voting on that. So that's going to be our message at the end of the year. Look at it, vote on it, it's your future. And you guys decide, let the clubs of Ireland decide.
Thanks very much, Micheál.
Thank you, Shane.